Hello, welcome. This is part 3 of Keena Ford and the Secret Journal Mix-Up. Hopefully you've read parts 1 and 2, and if not, you might want to go get them or just jump in where we are. Wednesday, November 17th, 10:30 a.m. Hello, stupid old notebook again. We did not go get my journal from Tiffany's after dinner last night because Mom and Brian got into a big disagreement. A big disagreement is some talking in regular voices, then talking a little bit louder, then yelling for about 10 seconds, then talking in a very quiet voices. I know, because Mom and Dad used to have big disagreements before Dad moved to Maryland. Now they just talk to each other in nice voices and say please and thank you in almost every sentence. Mom and Brian's big disagreement was about basketball. Mom and Dad had decided that Brian was going to have to skip 1 week of basketball practice and one basketball game because he had been clowning around in class. If Brian was good in class, he would get to play basketball again. If not, he would miss another week. If he missed more than 2 weeks, then he would have to quit the team. At dinner, Brian was very mad about his punishment, and he was trying to argue with Mom. He said his teachers were picking on him. He said he could do what he wanted in class because it's a free country, which is true because I learned it when I went to the United States Capitol. Mom used her voice that means watch out, and she said they were not going to discuss it anymore. She said that if Brian wanted to stay on the basketball team, he should just do what he was supposed to do, and that was that. So after the big disagreement, Mom was kind of grumpy, and she did not want to go to Tiffany's with me. So I went to my room and tried to think up a way to help Brian be good so he could stay on the basketball team. I wanted him to stay on the basketball team for 2 reasons. First, playing basketball makes Brian happy, and if Brian is happy, then he won't want to move to Maryland. Second, I already made posters for when I cheer for Brian at his basketball games, and if he doesn't get to stay on the team, I won't get to show my posters. One poster says, "Roar, Brian Lion," because Brian's team is the Lions, and the other poster says, "Keep trying, Brian." I got some little basketball stickers that I put all over the posters. Thinking about posters and stickers gave me an idea. I decided to make a sticker chart for Brian to help him keep track of how many days he had been good in school. I took a big piece of paper and wrote, "Was I good today?" at the top. I made 5 boxes and wrote a day of the week in each box. I did not make a box for Saturday or Sunday. At the bottom, I wrote, "Good report equals sticker." Then I wrote, "5 stickers equals basketball team." I taped the sheet with my leftover stickers onto the paper. Then I taped the chart to the door of Brian's room. This morning, the chart was not on Brian's door. Mom said the chart was a very good idea, but that she should probably keep the chart so she could put stickers on it when Brian got a good report. When I got to school today, I told Tiffany that Mom and I were going to come over soon to get my journal. "You better not," she said. "Why not?" I asked her. "I don't want to give it back to you yet," she said. "And if you come over with your mom, I will tell her all the bad stuff you wrote." "You're mean," I said. "If you tell my mom that I think her new haircut makes her look like an old lady, then that will hurt her feelings. And my mom is always nice to you. Why would you hurt her feelings?" Tiffany smiled in a mean way again. "I won't hurt her feelings if you do what I say," Tiffany said. "You have to play with me at recess. I want to play Airplane Princess Twins." "Fine," I said, even though I hate Airplane Princess Twins. I like regular Airplane Twins better. Lenny and I made it up. We pretend we are twin sisters on an airplane, and we pretend fly to different corners of the playground. We pretend the different spots on the playground are famous places where we can do cool stuff. Like we will pretend fly to Australia and hop around with kangaroos. And then we will pretend fly to the North Pole and visit Santa's workshop. Airplane Twins is so fun. But Airplane Princess Twins isn't fun at all because you don't get to do any hopping and you don't get to fly to very cold places. You just get to fly to different palaces and castles where you sit inside and drink pretend tea. Maybe it will be more fun if Linny plays too. Maybe Tiffany will let us play Airplane Princess Triplets instead. 3:30 p.m. Tiffany would not let us play triplets. She said we were playing twins only. I told Lenny I was sorry, but that I had promised Tiffany in the morning that I would play with her. Lenny looked sad, but she went to play with Shay and Royanne on the monkey bars. Eric came over after school today so we could do our homework in the homework hut. It was pretty cold, so Mom gave us some old blankets and towels for the hut. Eric was talking about the visit from Bob Morgan, and he was very excited, but I just kept thinking about Tiffany. I'm going to ask Bob Morgan if he thinks I should write a book about spies living on a ship, Eric said. Tiffany has my journal and she won't give it back, I blurted out. Huh? Eric said. I reminded him that I had to go to Tiffany's when he was at the Wizards game. I told him that Tiffany read the journal, and there was some stuff I had written in there that wasn't too nice. But I said the not nice stuff was about people in my class. I didn't tell Eric I had written some not nice stuff about him. You should go on a mission to get your journal back, Eric said. You should go to Tiffany's to play, and when she isn't paying attention, you should take your journal back. But Tiffany will be mad if I take it, I said. Then she will for sure tell the bad stuff. But you can say she is lying, Eric pointed out. You will have your journal back, so you can say that you never wrote anything bad. Maybe the kids in your class won't believe her. Maybe, I said. I was not too sure. Eric said. He sat thinking for a few minutes. I let Eric do his thinking. I used to say, hello, when he was thinking for a long time. But now I know that when Eric thinks very slowly, he can come up with a very good idea. I kept working on my math homework while Eric was thinking. Most of the time when Eric gets a good idea, he'll say, ta-da, or something like that. But this time he just let lots of air out of his lungs. I put my math book down. Do you have an idea? I asked him. I think so, Eric said. He didn't sound very happy. At first I didn't know why, but then when Eric explained the plan to me, I understood why he wasn't excited about it. Eric's idea was that he would go over to Tiffany's to play, and then he would take my journal when Tiffany wasn't looking. Then Tiffany would be mad at Eric and not at me. But you hate playing with Tiffany, I said to Eric. But I am going to be a spy when I grow up, Eric pointed out. Sometimes a spy has to pretend to like doing stuff he hates because it is part of his special mission. Like in lots of spy movies, the spy will have to dance with girls because he wants to get secrets from them. I could not believe that Eric was going to play with Tiffany just to help me fix my problem. He was the nicest kid ever. I felt sad that I had written bad stuff about him in my journal. If I hadn't written the bad stuff in the first place, I wouldn't have to worry about Tiffany telling my secrets. I told Eric thank you about 1,000,000 times. I knew he would not read my journal because he takes his missions very seriously. And plus, he only likes reading about spies, boats, and what people eat for dinner in other countries. I told Eric that when he was a spy, I would try to help him with his missions. Then we pretty much just talked about spy stuff until Eric had to go home. 8:00 p.m. Tonight was a lot better than last night. Mom told me that Brian got a sticker on his chart, and Mom and Brian did not have a big disagreement at dinner. I decided that it would be okay to ask Brian about something I'd been wondering, so I went in his room after dinner. He was sitting on his bed listening to music on his earphones and reading a book for middle school kids called Something Something Outer Space. The first two words were too long for me to really read them, but I got the outer space part. His door was open, so I had not knocked on it, but I didn't think he heard me come in, so I just walked up to him and knocked on his leg. He jumped about 1,000,000 feet into the air, then he shouted, "What?" He took one of his earphones out of his ear. Then I decided maybe it was not such a good idea to ask Brian my question. Never mind, I said. I started walking to the door again. Brian told me to wait and said he was sorry he shouted. He said I surprised him. Then he asked what I wanted. Um, well, I was wondering if you would show me some of your tricks, I said. What are you talking about? Brian said. He looked confused. I closed the door so Mom wouldn't hear. Would you show me some of your clown tricks that you do in class? I won't tell Mom, I said. Brian looked confused for another second, but then he rolled his eyes at me. He took out his other earphone. When my teachers say I'm being a clown, it doesn't mean like a clown at the circus. They're just saying they think I should be quiet and sit still all day long. And when I try to talk to my friends or joke around, they tell Mom I'm breaking the rules, Brian said. Oh, I said. I felt my shoulders go down a little bit. I was disappointed. Any more questions? Brian asked me. I looked around his room for a second. Can I sit in your beanbag chair? I asked him. Brian asked if I would be quiet so he could read, and I said yes. So he said yes, I could sit in his beanbag chair. I walked over to the other side of his bed and sat in the squashy chair under the window. Brian picked up his book again, but he didn't put his earphones back in. I decided I would ask him one more question. Brian, I said. He said, what? Again, but a little bit nicer. Why do you like to be a clown at school? Brian said that he didn't really like to be a clown, but he just didn't like people always making him do stuff he didn't think he should have to do. I nodded my head a lot when he said that. I know that's right, I said. I don't like people making me do stuff I don't want to do either, especially people like Tiffany Harris. Now, are you going to be quiet? Brian asked me. I nodded, and he started reading again. I sat and watched. It was pretty boring to watch somebody read a book, but I felt safe sitting all smushed down in Brian's beanbag chair. After a lot of quiet, boring minutes, someone knocked on Brian's door and opened the door at the same time. I couldn't see over the bed, but I knew it was Mom because she always opens the door at the same time as knocking. And plus, she's the only other person who lives in our apartment. She said in a kind of worried voice, Do you know where your sister is? And Brian pointed at me in the beanbag chair. Mom walked around the bed so she could see me. Sorry, Mommy, I will go back to my room now, I said. I started to get up, but it was kind of hard because I was smushed down in the beans very well. Mom looked at me and then at Brian. Then she said I could stay in Brian's room for a little while. Then she left. I was excited that I was getting to hang out with Brian, but pretty soon it got boring again because he was just reading. After I got really bored, I thanked Brian for letting me sit in his chair, and then I went back to my room to write in my notebook. My notebook isn't so super bad to write in, but I will be happy when I get my journal back tomorrow after Eric's special mission. That's the end of Wednesday, November 17th. Don't miss the next section of Keena Ford and the Secret Journal Mix-Up. And we'll talk to you then here on Stories with Grandma.